Thank you, Mr. Secretary, for being here. I read your resume, and it's really spectacular. We've never met before, but from your time as governor, starting in 2016, you did some remarkable things. You've both supported fossil fuels, but you've also supported carbon neutral, which generated $25 billion in private sector investment in your state alone. So anybody who's protesting your pro-fossil fuel stance needs to look at your background and understand that it's far more nuanced and more well-rounded than that. You're also a China hawk, which I greatly appreciate, and the need to mine and process critical minerals in the United States determines whether or not the Chinese surpass us in many sectors, including military, or not. And so I'm glad that you're in charge of, you're the energy czar as well as mining czar. And of course, I want to thank you for sending the National Guard from North Dakota down to the warm weathers of Texas to help us reinforce the border. But one of the things that we've seen in this committee is when we have tribal days, and this year we had a record number of tribes come because Chairman Simpson has made it such a big priority. They have all been worried about cuts to Interior and whether or not it's going to affect them or not based on our treaty obligations, which is the law to them. The thing that affects me most in my questions about cuts is historically is their law enforcement capability based on cultural issues, being able to hire folks, but also monetary issues, being able to afford people that they train to come stick around instead of going to other law enforcement agency, but as well as the massive amounts of land that they have to cover. They have no air cover, and I'm a naval aviator. And so my question to you is this: how are we going to help them beat the 0.6 and get to where they need to be with 2.4 per thousand? But also, is there a way that we can get some of our retired aircraft to them to help them in both emergency response as well as law enforcement?
Well, Representative, law enforcement in country is a grave concern that I have, and during my time as governor, I was well aware of this issue, and it's compounding because I think that the bad guys know that we've got gaps in law enforcement on tribal lands, and so as we saw a period of time when we had all the economics of human trafficking, drug trafficking, and fentanyl in our country, one of the places that was easier for organized crime organizations to work and operate was in tribal areas. We conducted a joint effort in North Dakota across 3 of our 5 tribes with the federal government, FBI, State of North Dakota Bureau of Criminal Investigation, the State Highway Patrol, local tribal police. A couple of years ago, we arrested 55 people in one day across 3 tribes. They were all 55 affiliated with a gang out of Detroit that was connected to a cartel in Mexico, and it ties back to not only the drug trafficking, but this horrible issue of there's over 6,000 unsolved cases for missing and murdered Indigenous persons, most of those persons being Indigenous women, and we had our Secretary's Tribal Advisory Committee a couple weeks ago here. There's 12 regions, 2 representatives from each. We held that literally in my office, moved everything out, brought everybody in. We're set up in there, and on all 12 regions, everybody brought up law enforcement as an issue. Ahead of that meeting, we had the family of Emily Pike come in, and this is this case in Arizona that is not well understood, or I think I've always said if you have a co-ed that goes missing at spring break, it's going to be a 10-part Netflix series, and we have 6,000 missing and murdered Indigenous women, and you don't even know about it. Emily Pike is one that is as tragic as it becomes because she was ended up after having been assaulted. Law enforcement had identified an assailant. He was released after 3 days. She was considered the victim. She was 13 or 14 years old, sent to a foster home. ran away from the foster home. The foster home didn't tell her parents till she'd been reported her missing 5 days later. And then, search begins, as it often does, and then ends tragically, and they found her dismembered in garbage bags, along the side of a road, as she must have been trying to make her way back from the foster home 80 miles back to the reservation where her family was. And so it doesn't get more tragic. But we brought Cash Patel over to Interior. He sat with me with the Emily Pike family, and and then he stayed and met with the Secretary's committee. And I was told by virtually every tribal leader there that was the first time that they had a meeting with the head of the FBI. He has dedicated 60 FBI already. He's announced that 60 FBI personnel are going to be deployed on Indian country cases. I talked to him yesterday at the White House, and he said that he hopes that he can get more resources placed again it. So this isn't just about, yes, we need BIA law enforcement, we need upgraded retention facilities, we need a bunch of things on the local level, but it is a federal responsibility. This is, again, as a governor, I can tell you, very frustrating when these things would happen, that we could not legally, in many cases, deploy state resources to help the tribes. We did. We volunteered. We said we'll be out. We'll help on searches, all of that. But from a jurisdictional standpoint, this is federal ground and federal law enforcement, and we got to bring all federal law enforcement. And I would say, into your acknowledgement on the border and down in your state, but 41% of the southwestern border is interior land, 41%. And so, so this touches law enforcement across not just, BIA, BLM, national parks, touches everybody. And so law enforcement is something we're spending a lot of time focused on right now.
Thank you. And I'd just like to ask, let's get them some air support. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.